I'm Denton Davidson for Gold Derby here with Jan Matuszynski, the director of Poland's entry for Best International Feature Film at the 94th Academy Awards, Leave No Traces. Jan, this film is a historical drama that takes place in 1983 when a high school student is beaten to death by a police in communist Poland. What made you want to bring this story to the screen now, and how did you decide who you wanted to work with on this project?
Well, I was looking for a next project after my previous film, The Last Family, and one of the things I got in my hands from my producers was a book called Leave No Traces, a reportage book, and that was available because after the communist regime ended in Poland, the government opened some of the archives so people could go and see what really happened in the 80s, and that's one of the stories. And of course, it's also because of the witness who saw it all, and he's the main character of Leave No Traces. For me, this story is kind of symbolic. It's actually like a crime against humanity. When you hear those kind of things, it's hard to cope with that kind of thing. I think it's, I got this book in 2017, and that was a bit of a different time in the world in Poland. But although I was born in 84, so a year after it all happened, when I was going through the book, I had this feeling that it's something that can happen just around the corner. And if I can do a film about it, cinema is the only tool I got. I'm a film director, so what can I do? And I thought that I have to go with this one because this is an important thing. Because I don't want those things, to come back and happen ever again. Although if you look around the world, it's not really, it's somewhere there, all those stories happening, like, George Floyd, for example. You have events like this all around the world now.
Yeah, it's really relevant to anyone watching from any part of the world, which is unfortunate. Were you concerned about potential pushback or the risk of bringing up a story like this again and sort of rehashing it?
It's always a risk, because when you're taking up a true story, which is based on real events, you have to cope with this, that this is your interpretation and only yours, right? So somebody else, and this is a story that happened almost 40 years ago in Poland, but there's the people involved somehow on both sides of the barricade that are alive and around, and we had to deal with that too. And the thing that is in Leave No Traces, one of the crucial parts is that the beating part, that's a huge problem, that's a tragedy, but it's getting more and more it's getting worse when it turns out that this is getting political, and everything is political nowadays. So I knew that this is tricky, but I didn't have a choice. I just love the story. I thought that this is something that I can tell on a big screen.
And was that daunting to tell that big of a story on the big screen? Because there's a lot to handle. There's a lot of scenes to shoot. It's quite a long film. So was that process daunting in and of itself?
Yeah, we had like a very quick conversation with my producers. Should it be a TV series or a film? And we decided very fast, early on, that it has to be a film because it's so important. And it's multi-layered, it's complex, but that's how I wanted it to be. And I see after all those reactions, when you hear like Todd McCarthy telling you that he can talk all night, a couple of hours about this film, it's great to hear that it works, right? And when I read the book for the first time, I had this idea that maybe we should just follow the mother. But that would be a very intimate, narrowed way of telling this story. And what I was really interested in is, the big question: what does it mean, the whole truth? Yeah, what did he really see? What does it mean that he saw? Can you see everything? Can you tell everything in court? How it really happened? Those kind of things. This is like the level that I got interested in, and on some level, which works both together, I think, is that this is sort of a coming of age story too, because the main character has to grow up to take his own decisions. This is what the fight is all about, because the government wants to cover it up, and the main thing that they has to do is to just make him change his testimony. So it's all about bringing truth outside to the world, and it's a great theme, I think.
And Tomasz Zajtek gives an incredible performance. He's the lead witness in the film, the main character, the survivor who saw his friend brutally beaten to death. What was it about Tomasz that stood out to you and made you want to cast him for this project? Because it's a substantial role.
I really love actors. I think that acting is a very hard job, and I knew that Leave No Traces needs a lot of great actors in it, and the main lead needs a young guy. So I was looking around what we have in Poland, and Tomasz Zajtek was my first and only choice. I have to say, I saw him in Silent Night. I saw him in Corpus Christi. He was the bad guy in Corpus Christi, and we just had a couple of hours of rehearsals, and I knew that this should be him. I had to connect him with the father, who's played by Jacek Braciak, and that's how it all went. And the cast in this film, if we're talking about Polish industry, we have like 2/3 out of every great actor in it, because I'm sure you recognize Tomasz Kot, who was in Cold War, Aleksandra Konieczna, who played also in Corpus Christi, but she played also in my previous film, The Last Family. She's here playing the prosecutor, very, very harsh, rough, character. And I could name, a lot of actors. I had this joke that we casted almost every actor in his 20s, in his 50s in Poland, because there's so many, because people who were in power in that time in Poland were men around 50.
I love that scene where the prosecutor is just eating at the desk while she's talking about how serious the case is. She was really great to watch. In terms of the real life people involved, did you have communication with any surviving family members or anyone who knew the people portrayed in the film, or is that something that they want to stay away from?
We have a bunch of characters here, and I heard from my friend, who's also a director, that the prosecutor played by Aleksandra Konieczna, she was just exactly like that. And I was so terrified when I heard it, because I knew that from the papers, from the documents, but when you hear something like this, you're always terrified, because that kind of people, are somewhere around. And well, yeah, the main character is based on a real person, but we had to change his ID a bit to make it a bit simple in terms of telling this story. And he's actually one of the guys who don't want to talk to anyone about it, because he's, in terms of emotions and psychological part, I think he's worried. My producer talked to him on the phone, and he didn't really respond after a really long talk. But for example, the guy from the ambulance, Michał Wysocki, he was a real help. He was one of the consultants. He actually helped us, for example, when there's the scene when they are taking him out of the ambulance and going to the hospital. We had this, rehearsal with him, telling us which leg came first, how did he react to all of this. And this is the detail when you have a true story that you really want to use, you want to cope with. And of course, I had some very difficult discussions with him about what happened with him in prison.
Well, I mean, it's a powerful story that is historical for Poland, but it really does resonate anywhere for anyone watching it. Jan, thank you for your time and chatting with me today, and good luck with everything this season. It was great talking with you about Leave No Traces.
Thank you.